Hi, my students. Welcome to you all. It's a pleasure to meet you again. We have been discussing the story, The Best Christmas Present in the World, in the last 3 classes. But still the story is not complete. We can make it finish today. We can finish it today. But before that, let us recap the last class. The German and British soldiers continued their Christmas celebration. They played football and the German soldiers won the match by the margin of 2-1. And Hanswolf opined that it would be better to end their problems and the war by playing a football match. At last, Jim promised to his wife that they would celebrate the next Christmas. Okay, now come to the chapter. Did you forget the title of the story? What was the title? Yes, The Best Christmas Present in the World. We read the letter of Jim and we saw in the first part that the author found a roll-top desk in a junk shop, and from that table he got the letter. He got the tin box and he got the letter inside the tin box. And did you see anywhere the Christmas present? Is there any mention about the Christmas present in the story in the last parts? No. But we can see that in the next part, the last part that we are going to take today. Let's move to the chapter now.
I folded the letter again and slipped it carefully back into its envelope. So the author finished reading the letter of Jim Mcpherson to his wife, and he now folded the letter and put it back into its envelope, in its cover. I kept awake all night. That night the author couldn't sleep, thinking about these two persons, Jim Mcpherson and Connie Mcpherson, and what he had written in this letter. He couldn't sleep at all. He kept awake. By morning I knew what I had to do, but when the morning came, he decided what he has to do. What was his decision? I drove into Bridport. Do you know what is the importance of Bridport? Yes, it is the place of Connie Mcpherson. And he drove his car into Bridport to see that lady. Just a few miles away. It was not very far from where the author is living. It is just a few miles away from his house. I asked a boy walking his dog where Copper Beaches was. The actual place was Copper Beaches in Bridport. So I saw a boy walking a dog there, and I asked him about where the Copper Beaches are. House number 12 turned out to be nothing but a burned out shell, and the house number of Connie was 12. Copper Beaches 12 was the address on the envelope. And when I saw the house number 12, it was nothing but a burned out shell. What is burned out? It is given there. Destroyed by fire. The house was completely destroyed by the fire. The roof gaping. Its roof is completely damaged. It is gaping. Gaping means opened. The windows boarded up. And also its windows, there is no glass on the windows. It is completely boarded up. Boarded up means covered with wooden boards. Covered with wooden boards. So its windows are boarded up. Its roof is opened, gaped, and also it is completely damaged by the fire accident. That was the condition of that house. So I knocked at the house next door. So when I found that this house is completely damaged, no one is living there, I knocked at the door of a next house and asked if anyone knew the whereabouts of a Mrs. Mcpherson. And I asked the persons there, do you know the details about Mrs. Mcpherson who was living in your neighbor house? Oh yes, said the old man in his slippers. So there was an old man in that house wearing a slipper. He told me that he knows Mrs. Mcpherson. He knew her well. A lovely old lady, he told me. He told me that she was a lovely old woman, an old lady. A bit muddle-headed, but she was a bit muddle-headed. What is muddle-headed? It is there. It means confused. Her mental state is not that much stable. She is a bit confused always. But at her age, she was entitled to be. But at her age, she is a very old woman. So at her age, being a bit mentally confused is not a what, not not an extraordinary thing. It's an ordinary thing because she is very old woman, wasn't she? 101 years old. So our Connie Macpherson is very old woman. She is actually 101 years old. So automatically her mental state will be a bit confused, not will be in a better condition. She had been in the house when it caught fire. When the fire caught in a when the house caught in a fire accident, she was there. She was in her house. No one really knew how the fire had started. But the reason of fire accident, no one knows. But it could well have been candles. It may be from the candles she used. She used candles rather than electricity. She used always candles rather than electricity because she always thought electricity was too expensive. So in her opinion, electricity was an expensive thing, a costly thing. So she always chose to use the candles. So the fire may be caught from these candles. The fireman had got her out just in time, but before catching the fire to her, the fire force, rescued her. She was in a nursing home now. Now she is living in a nursing home, he told me. Burlington House on the Dorchester Road on the other side of the town. So he told me where Connie is living now. She is living in a nursing home in Burlington House. The name of the nursing home is that it is Burlington House, and also it is situated on Dorchester Road, he told me. A comprehension check is given there. Two questions are there. First one, why did the author go to Bridport? Don't you know the answer? Why did he go to Bridport? Yes, he went to see Connie Macpherson. Now the second question is, how old was Mrs. Macpherson now? How old is she now? She is 101 years old. And where was she? She was living in a nursing home. Okay, now we can look at the next paragraph. I found Burlington House nursing home easily enough. So I found it very easily. The nursing home, I found it. There were paper chains up in the hallway, and lighted Christmas tree stood in the corner with a lopsided angel on top. And when I entered the nursing home, I could see the paper chains in the hallway. Don't you know paper chain? When we decorate our rooms, schools, etc. for any type of celebration, we will always use the paper chains pasted on the walls. Okay, so that is paper chains. So I could see many paper chains in the hallway, and lighted Christmas tree. It is the Christmas season, so Christmas tree is there. Lighted Christmas tree is standing in the corner of the hallway with a lopsided angel on top. And on the Christmas tree, many types of things will be there. Stars will be there, and nuts will be there, round shaped balls will be there, and also a lopsided angel is also there. What is lopsided? Lopsided means tilted or leaning to one side, not in a correct shape, not in an actual position. It is leaning to one side. That type of an angel is also there. I said I was a friend come to visit Mrs. Mcpherson to bring her a Christmas present. So when I entered the nursing home, I told there I was a friend of Mrs. Mcpherson and I had come there to give her a Christmas present. I could see through into the dining room where everyone was wearing a paper hat and singing. And so many persons were there. So many people were there. And all of them were wearing paper hat. It is a Christmas. So they were wearing a paper hat and also singing many types of Christmas carols and all. The matron had a The matron had a hat on too and seemed unhappy enough to see me. And the matron, who is matron? A woman in charge of a nursing home. That is matron. So an authority will be there. Okay, so the person who is in charge of all these nursing home is called matron. So that matron had a hat on too. She was also wearing a hat and seemed happy enough to see me. And when I said her that I am there to visit Mrs. Mcpherson, she seemed very happy. She even offered me a mince pie. She gave me a sweet called mince pie. It's a sweet dish filled with many dried fruits and spices, and a type of sweet that is served on Christmas, mince pie. She gave me that mince pie also. She walked me along the corridor. Then she led me through a corridor. Mrs. Mcpherson is not in with the others, she told me. She told me that many people were sitting there, but Mrs. Mcpherson is not with the others. Why? What is the reason? She is rather confused today. She is very confused. Her mental stage is very confused. And so we thought it best if she had a good rest. So we thought that it would be better for her to take a rest, not being a part of a crowd. She has no family, you know that she has no family. No one visits, so that's why no one visits her here. So I am sure she will be only too pleased to see you. And she told me that, and that old lady, that Mrs. Mcpherson, would be very pleased, very happy to see you, because no one visits her, and when she sees someone coming to visit her, she would be very happy. She took me into a conservatory. And she took me into a conservatory. What is conservatory? You might have seen a greenhouse where the plants are growing. So such type of structure is called conservatory. And she took me into a conservatory with wicker chairs. Many chairs are there, and all of them are wicker chairs. Wicker chairs actually a type of chair made of very thin pieces wood twisted together, like our cane chairs. Don't you know how cane chairs are made? Yeah, it is made from many canes are twisting together. So such type of chairs are called wicker chairs. So many wicker chairs were there in that conservatory, and potted plants all around and left me. So many potted plants were also there. It is a type of greenhouse, and many plants were there in many different shapes of pots. And she left me, and the lady left me. The old lady was sitting in a wheelchair, her hands folded in her lap. So at last I saw the lady. Who? Mrs. Mcpherson. I saw her. She was sitting in a wheelchair, her hands folded in her lap. She was sitting there folding her hand in her lap. She had silver white hair. Her hair was completely silver color. Silver color means it was completely grey, pinned into a wispy bun. And also that hair was pinned into a wispy bun. Wispy means thin, not that much thick. Thin ആയിട്ടുള്ള അത്ര കനം കുറഞ്ഞ ഒരു ബൺ. Don't you know what is bun? It is actually a shape in which the woman wore their hair. ഒരു മുടി കെട്ടുന്ന ബണ്ണ് രൂപത്തിൽ മുടി കെട്ടാറുണ്ടല്ലോ. അപ്പം അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരു ബണ്ണാക്കി കെട്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള മുടിയാണ് ഇവരുടേത്. ആകെ നരച്ചിട്ടുമുണ്ട്. She was gazing out at the garden. She was sitting there in her wheelchair, gazing outside. What is gazing? Looking out at the garden. Hello, I said. So when I faced her, I addressed her. Hello. She turned and looked at me vacantly. Then she turned at me and looked at me vacantly, very blank, without any expression in her eyes. She looked at my face. Happy Christmas, Connie, I went on. I continued. Happy Christmas, Connie. I found this. Then I gave her that letter, that black tin box. I found this. I think it is yours. I think this letter is yours. As I was speaking, her eyes never left my face. When I spoke, she didn't look anywhere except my face. എൻ്റെ മുഖത്തേക്ക് മാത്രമാണ് അവർ നോക്കിയത്. I opened the tin box. ഞാൻ ആ tin box തുറന്നു. And gave it to her, the letter. That was the moment her eyes lit up. Then when she saw that letter, her precious letter, her eyes lit up. What is lit up? It is given there. Lit up means became bright with happiness, excitement. ആകെ സന്തോഷം കൊണ്ട് മുഖം ഇങ്ങോട്ട് പ്രകാശിച്ചു, മുഖമാകെ പ്രകാശിച്ചു, lit up. So she thought she lost her precious letter. What was she writing there? What it was written on the top of that letter, that box? It should be buried with me when I die. ഞാൻ മരിക്കുമ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ കൂടെ അടക്കം ചെയ്യണമെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് അവൾ കീപ്പ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുള്ള അത്രയും ഫേവറേറ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ലെറ്ററാണ്. അത് അവൾക്ക് നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടതിൽ അവൾക്ക് ഒരു പക്ഷെ സങ്കടമുണ്ടാവാം. ആ ലെറ്റർ കണ്ടു കിട്ടിയപ്പോൾ അവരുടെ മുഖമാകെ അങ്ങോട്ട് പ്രകാശിച്ചു. And her face becomes suffused with a sudden glow of happiness. And also her face becomes suffused. Suffused means it is also given here, spread all over her face. Her face is spread with glow of happiness. It is filled with happiness, her face. I explained about the desk, about how I had found it, but I don't think she was listening. So I explained everything, how I found it, where I got her desk from, and also how I got her letter, and I explained everything in detail. But I don't think she was listening. She was in another world. She was not at all listening to what I was saying. For a while she said nothing, but stroked the letter tenderly with her fingertips. For some time she didn't say anything, but stroked the letter tenderly. Tenderly means softly. She stroked the letter softly with her fingertips. Fingertips കൊണ്ട് മെല്ലെ അതിങ്ങനെ തലോടിക്കൊണ്ടിരുന്നു കത്ത്. Suddenly she reached out and took my hand. Unexpectedly she reached out and took my hand. എൻ്റെ കൈ അങ്ങോട്ട് പിടിച്ചു. Her eyes were filled with tears. She was crying. Her eyes were filled with tears. You told me you would come home by Christmas, dearest, she said. And here you are, the best Christmas present in the world. Come closer, Jim dear, sit down. So what was she saying? You told me you would come home by Christmas, dearest. നിങ്ങൾ എന്നോട് പറഞ്ഞത് എൻ്റെ പ്രിയപ്പെട്ടവനെ, മൈ ഡിയറസ്റ്റ്, യു ടോൾഡ് മീ യു വുഡ് കം ഹോം ബൈ ക്രിസ്മസ്. ക്രിസ്മസിന് വരുമെന്നല്ലേ നിങ്ങൾ പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നത്? ആൻഡ് ഹിയർ യു ആർ ദ ബെസ്റ്റ് ക്രിസ്മസ് പ്രസൻറ്റ് ഇൻ ദ വേൾഡ്. യെസ്, ദിസ് ഈസ് ദ ബെസ്റ്റ് ക്രിസ്മസ് പ്രസൻറ്റ് ഫോർ മീ ഇൻ ദ വേൾഡ്. കം ക്ലോസർ ജിം ഡിയർ. സോ ഷീ തോട്ട് ഇറ്റ് വാസ് ജിം ഹാഡ് കം ടു വിസിറ്റ് ഹെർ ഇൻ ദിസ് ക്രിസ്മസ്. അപ്പോൾ അവർ മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നത് 102 വയസ്സുള്ളൊരു സ്ത്രീയാണ്, അല്പം മെൻ്റലി കൺഫ്യൂസ്ഡാണ്. അവർ കരുതുന്നത് തൻ്റെ ഭർത്താവ്, തനിക്ക് നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു എന്ന് കരുതിയ, യുദ്ധത്തിൽ നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു എന്ന് കരുതിയ ഭർത്താവ് തന്നെ കാണാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് വന്നിരിക്കുകയാണ് എന്നാണ് അവർ കരുതുന്നത്. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ ഓദറെ അവർ അഡ്രസ്സ് ചെയ്തത് ജിം എന്നാണ്. എൻ്റെ ജിം ഇങ്ങോട്ട് വരൂ, ആൻഡ് സിറ്റ് ഡൗൺ വിത്ത് മീ. ദിസ് ഈസ് മൈ ബെസ്റ്റ് ക്രിസ്മസ് പ്രസൻറ്റ്. I sat down beside her, and she kissed my cheek. What did the author do? He couldn't say anything. He sat there beside the lady, and she kissed my cheek. I read your letter so often, Jim, every day. And she is saying, continuing her words. Every day I will read your letter, Jim. Every day. I wanted to hear your voice in my head. അതിങ്ങനെ വായിക്കുമ്പോൾ നിങ്ങളുടെ ശബ്ദം, നിങ്ങളുടെ വോയിസ് എൻ്റെ ഹെഡിൽ, എൻ്റെ തലയിൽ ഇങ്ങനെ കേൾക്കുന്നതായിട്ട് എനിക്ക് ഫീൽ ചെയ്യും. അത് കേൾക്കാൻ ഞാൻ വല്ലാതെ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നു. ഇറ്റ് ഓൾവേസ് മെയ്ഡ് മീ ഫീൽ യു വർ വിത്ത് മീ. വെൻ ഐ റീഡ് ദ ലെറ്റർ ദർ ഇസ് എ ഫീലിംഗ് ഇൻ മൈ മൈൻഡ് ദാറ്റ് യു ആർ സിറ്റിംഗ് ബിസൈഡ് മീ, യു ആർ ദർ വിത്ത് മീ. നിങ്ങൾ അത് വായിക്കുമ്പോഴാണ് നിങ്ങൾ എൻ്റെ കൂടെ ഉണ്ടെന്നൊരു തോന്നലാണ് എനിക്ക്. ആൻഡ് നൗ യു ആർ, ആൻഡ് നൗ യു ഹാവ് കം ഹിയർ. You are back. You can read it to me yourself. Now you are back from the war. Now you can read your letter to me. Then I can hear your voice once more. Would you do that for me, Jim dear? Okay, Jim, can't you do that for me? Can't you read that letter for me? I just want to hear your voice again. I want to hear your voice again. I missed it very badly. I was missing you for many years. I was thinking about you every day and I was reading your letter every day. Now you have come for me and you can read that letter for me. I want to hear your voice once again. I would love that so much. And then perhaps we will have some tea. After that we can drink a little tea. I have made you a nice Christmas cake. I have made for you, this is Christmas, and I made you a Christmas cake. Marzipan all around, and on the top of that Christmas, marzipan is there. I know how much you love marzipan. I know how much you love my marzipan. So this was the story. That is the best Christmas present for Connie, her husband. She thought she's a very old woman and she's a bit muddle headed, so she thought her husband had returned from the war to see her. And it was a best Christmas present for her. Okay, and she was expecting him all these years. Her dearest husband, she was expecting him. So that is the best Christmas present in the world.
Okay, students, didn't you see how heart-touching the story is? Yes, the last part we studied today really makes our title of the story very suitable and apt to. What is the best present in the world? Yes, it is actually the love, the sincere love that we give to someone. That is the best present that we can give to them. Here in this story, the Mrs. Jim Mcpherson, Connie Mcpherson, she lost her husband in the First World War, and she was expecting him in her life, and she was keeping his letter in a box with a wish to bury that letter with her when she dies. And when the author came to her, when our narrator came to her in the nursing home, she thought that it was her husband, and it was her husband coming to see her, coming to celebrate the Christmas. So, according to her, it was the best Christmas present. The coming of the author was the best Christmas present, and giving her favorite and her precious letter to her is the best Christmas present. Okay, so that is how the title of the story becomes very suitable one, the best Christmas present in the world. And what about our author? He became silent. He couldn't do anything before that love. He became speechless. So that is how this story becomes a heart-touching story. So that's all. And I have given you the answers of the questions along with this video. You have to write those notes into a notebook. Okay, that's all, and have a nice day. Thank you.